Good afternoon, my name is Donnell Tinsley. Today I'll be presenting my claim of fact speech. The majority of us have struggled with health at some point in our lives, whether it be visiting a dentist, dealing with a broken leg we got from a risky skip or a trick on a half pipe, or choosing between the Big Mac or the Cobb salad. When it comes to food, we're dealing with health almost every moment of the day, as it is a major player in what affects our health. However, have you ever thought of how your dietary decisions not only affect us, but also the environment? My proposition today is that implementing a plant-based diet will improve environmental and human health. A plant-based diet meaning a diet that consists purely of foods that are derived from fruits and vegetables and do not include animal or animal byproducts such as dairy, eggs, and meat, otherwise known as veganism. And environmental and human health meaning the wellness of an individual or population, as well as the conditions of the environment, including resource availability, air quality, water quality, etc. I'll be supporting my proposition with 3 supporting claims. First, veganism can reverse the negative effects of dairy and meat consumption, such as clogged arteries, diabetes, and obesity. Second, decrease in meat and dairy consumption decreases production, which also decreases greenhouse gases and biohazard waste. And lastly, raising of livestock contributes to mass land loss that damages natural environments. Meat and dairy products are what cause many people's ailments, both cosmetic and life-threatening. Meat and other animal byproducts contain saturated fats and chemicals that cause high cholesterol, weight gain, and cancer. A 1980 study conducted in 65 counties in China by researchers from Cornell University, Oxford University, and the Chinese Academy of Preventive Medicine found that those areas with populations that consumed a low percentage of animal products had lower death rates in terms of cancer. Those with low animal consumption between 0 to 10% reported 35 male and female cancer deaths per 100,000 people per year. Those with high animal product consumptions reported 491 female and 721 male cancer deaths per 100,000 people per year. That is a total of 1,212 cancer deaths. It was also concluded that 2 to 3% of these deaths were from genetically caused cancers. Animal-based products bring forth health risks that put millions of lives in danger, especially when considering on a grand scale. And removal of these products can put millions of lives back into health. Caldwell Esselstyn, a retired surgeon, researcher, and clinician, conducted a 20-year study at the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio that began in 1985. Esselstyn gave nutrition-based care to 24 patients with severe heart disease who had already had extensive care. Patients were prevented from eating any animal products, as well as naturally fatty foods such as nuts and avocados. Previous to the experiment, the patients had experienced a combined number of 49 coronary events. During the span of the study, patients no longer experienced any cardiovascular trauma. This information is critical considering that the American Heart Association considers heart disease as a leading cause of death globally, with 17.3 million deaths per year. Changing our dietary habits is a simple way to positively change our health, and I can speak from personal experience. Since becoming a vegan about a year ago, I've lost 25 pounds without the addition of any exercise regimen. My lifestyle also brought less intensive physical changes, such as clearer skin, more energy, and regularity. By removing animal products from your diet, you can do more than just better yourself, you can better the planet. Which brings me to my second claim, that decrease in meat and dairy production means a decrease in greenhouse gas production and biohazard waste. As residents of California, we are aware of how important water is to our ecosystem. When water is a valuable player in production of crops and foods. According to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, about 132 gallons of water is used to create about 3 pounds of potatoes. About 237 gallons goes to growing about 3 pounds of wheat. These numbers may seem drastic, however, when you compare them to those of beef, they seem much more minute. About 4,438 gallons goes to produce only 3 pounds worth of beef. This is water use that we waste on a product that also damages our health. Not only does the mass production of meat waste water, but also contributes to more greenhouse gas emissions than transportation. Livestock accounts for about 64% of ammonia emissions, which cause acid rain, as well as an immense methane production, which affects global warming 23 times more than carbon dioxide. By avoiding meat products, consumers can decrease the demand for meat and thus the rate of production, decreasing our carbon footprint. By eating a vegan diet, a single individual saves about 1.5 tons of carbon dioxide per year. Mass raising of livestock has increased over time and is projected to increase about 50% by 2050. This increasing demand for land to raise animals can take quite a toll on land resources, bringing me to my last claim that raising of livestock contributes to mass land loss that damages the natural environment. According to NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, it requires about 20 acres of land to raise a minimum of 11 cows. That means a minimum of 20 acres of forest that get cut down for a small cattle farm. And these numbers are greater considering the scale of livestock farms that meat corporations own. According to the International Journal of Science, IJS, forests that are left intact assist in reducing flooding, which keeps animal sheltering intact, combat global warming by using CO2 emissions, and also purify water. Farm use of fertilizers and pesticides create toxins that seep into ground and surface water, which according to IJS increases water purification costs and decreases fishery. By using the economic system of supply and demand to our advantage, we can decrease the growing creation of livestock farms by focusing on consuming mostly plant products. To conclude, from toning down body fat to saving a forest to saving a life, changing to a plant-based diet not only serves you better, but also your ecosystem. Thank you. Oh.
Okay, the proposition is clearly identified. It does have two parts to it, so that's a little bit awkward because you're talking about the environmental issues and the human issues. So you need a covering term to cover both of those things. There's a good preview of what the secondary claims are going to be. I think, by the way, it's delivered very nicely as you're transitioning between the points. It's easy to see where we are. The language that you use is clear, and I think it makes it sound polished when you're getting to it. So you're doing a very good job on that. The signposts and the individual points, they're easy to follow as well. The proof on the individual points is pretty solid on the first and second point. I do think that there are some places where there are some comparisons that are going to be necessary in order for us to reach the conclusions that you're talking about. The personal example is okay. I think that does help give you a little bit of credibility, but the notion that we should generalize from that I think is a little bit more problematic. The link between meat and or dairy products and a variety of diseases, this is one of those things that is also true on the third point. There's a tendency to say because there's a link that therefore there's a problem. Lots of things might be connected to something else. That doesn't necessarily make them causal in nature, and so you've got to be a little bit careful and maybe provide a little more information to show that there is in fact a strong probability that these things are the things that are contributing to illnesses. You've got the start of it. I just feel like it's, you know, I wouldn't say it's sufficient at this particular point. It's enough for me to believe that there's an argument there. To be convinced, I think I would need a little bit more information. On the greenhouse gases issue, same sort of thing. This is all of the environmental stuff is, you need to give me more context. So the amount of water that you are using, for instance, I think is pretty good. You talk about, you know, here's how much to get potatoes or wheat and that sort of thing, and here's how much it is to get beef. But I don't know how much total of the water that it's using. Does that mean that we have a shortage as a consequence? When you talk about the pollution in the atmosphere from, you know, cow methane and, you know, basically flatulence, those kinds of things. There is statistical information that talks about what contribution that makes to global warming gases, for instance, and I think that you need that kind of information in there also. Like I said, the water thing I think is a good illustration of that issue. It's like, okay, well I know that's a lot of water, but it's based on how much water there is or how much we use for other things every day. Is it really that much? I don't have any way of measuring it. So you gave me two measurements that show it's significant, but no measurements that show what its total impact would be, and I think something else like that would be helpful. All right, thank you.